Hello and welcome to this introductory instructions and introductory variations to the resting squat position and the front squat. It's designed as an introduction to show the major cues and the major body positions and to get someone started on their journey for resting squat and front squat. Oftentimes the squat is called the king of all exercises. It is a large compound movement that gives a lot of bang for your buck when performed. So the first step in teaching a front squat is going to be able to master what's called the resting squat. Now the resting squat is actually in and of itself a great stretch, a great exercise. I firmly believe it should be something that people do even if they don't squat. They should stretch the resting squat and they should activate the resting squat so they're able to be able to do it. Now the resting squat is in this position that you see here, where it's basically you're at rest in a squat position. Babies and toddlers do this front resting squat naturally, okay? And adults do this naturally too, unless you are in a society or a culture that has gone away from the resting squat. This resting squat is a natural position going back hundreds of thousands of years until, quite frankly, we were in the hunter and gatherer stage. Certain cultures have never gone away from the resting squat and still use the resting squat in their daily practice. In fact, and you may already know this unless you don't, the resting squat is literally the bathroom position of many nations in the world that we see here. It's like you resting squat to literally go to the bathroom. Pictures, resting squat, resting squat, resting squat. So learning the resting squat is in and of itself a process. And like I said, if you never squat ever with body weight or even with resistance, I think it's beneficial to learn the resting squat. And it doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. We've been training our whole lives not to be in this position because of chairs and sit-down toilets. There's literally nothing in certain cultures that would necessitate or promote the resting squat, but it is a natural position. So many people are unlearning years and years of never having done this in order to get down into this position. And I was not a natural resting squatter. It took me over a week. I can't remember 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I can't remember how long it took me to be comfortable in this position. And once I'm in this position, it takes learning and time to be comfortable for longer. So what I can say is practice helps. If you can't get into this position, practice will help. Some people, I've heard from people, they'll never be able to get in this position. Okay, I get that. But for some people, they will be able to achieve this position, and once they're able to achieve this position, it opens up a whole new part of mobility for their lives. It's just something that once you can get it, you are going to have it, and it's going to be part of your repertoire, and life just opens up a little bit for you. And if you never get this, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Practice helps. Initially, I remember holding it was incredibly uncomfortable. Only a few seconds could I have held it before I had to go out of the position, and I had to build up after that. Eventually it should be comfortable once your muscles get used to it, once you have enough flexibility that's there, it should be comfortable. The legs should be comfortable width apart, and the knees should be spread. These are all the things we're going to look at on the video. The feet should end up being flat on the ground. It is flat feet versus a raised feet. Many people, it is easier for them to get into this position where I'm sorry if it's tough to see, where they're on the balls of their feet with the heels raised. This is okay, but it's not the resting squat. So this is sort of a transient half position. The knees are spread, and you can even push the knees apart with your elbows once you get comfortable in that position for a little better stretch. And eventually we want to go all the way down. Okay, all the way down for the rest. We don't go all the way down for the actual working squats, but in the rest position, there's a great deal of difference between being all the way down and rested and being a little bit off the ground, which is not a resting position. So we're going to be looking for all of those in this video right here. Feet, shoulder, I'm not even going to say shoulder width apart. Feet comfortably apart. You know, for any squats and any of these exercises, everyone's different, and it should be comfortable. You can find 100 different ways to do a squat and deadlift, depending on foot angle, and there are very few things that have to be done. Mostly it's comfort. One of the things that we are looking for, whomever you are, is that the knees go out and spread. They're making a hole for your body to go down into. Okay, right here would be a non-resting squat position. Okay, the hips are too high. I'm using the muscles to stay up. It's not fully rested. We want to sink even farther down. And there we go. Now right here, this is the full resting squat position. Pushing the knees out just a little bit to get a good stretch. The heels are on the ground. The weight is taken off of the quad muscles, and I'm just sitting and resting. One thing we want to mention is there is a significant difference between resting squat spine and athletic resting squat. I'm right now doing an athletic resting squat to practice for when I do a front squat. The spine is held in a neutral position and is not flexed forward. Okay, this is the position you're going to want to hold it in when you're doing a full front squat. This isn't the resting squat position. When you see people in their full resting squat, they do let their spine relax and flex, but that's not when you're doing athletics. The head stays in a neutral position, and the torso is leaning a little bit forward. Even though the spine is in a supported neutral position, the whole torso is leaning forward. And this is the stretch. This is what you're going to want to practice getting into and chilling out there. Aside from the back, right there I can say I'm working a little bit to keep the back, but when you're just learning this, you can let the back roll forward and just learn to chill out. All right, let's take another view on athletic resting squat versus a full resting squat. I'm gonna go down in the first position. I'm gonna hit an athletic resting squat. This right here is in preparation for actually learning how to do back squats and front squats. Okay, you'll notice that the hips are gonna be right on parallel. The back is going to be in a very supported, neutral position. I'm ready to put weight on the back or in the front. Okay, I am ready to weight the spine, weight the squat. This is athletic. Watch here how we sink down into the resting squat stretch. The hips come down and the back goes forward. Now this is a little exaggerated with the rounding right here, but if I had to pick something up off the ground, I would round my back. That's how it worked, and that's how it does work. And notice the weight of the body, weight of the hips. We've now closed this angle up, and there's a lot less tension on the quads. This is the full resting squat. It's very comfortable. It's all day, every day you could sit down in this position. It is not the athletic squat. Okay, we're gonna watch me come out of the resting squat to hit a neutral balanced spine. From the bottom rest, we're gonna come up a little bit. Now we're in the athletic squat position. It's not the resting squat. And I come up out of it. Something you can do, we'll cover this later in a different video, is if you're wondering how your spine is, if it's neutral and supported, you should be able to put a broom along your back, and it should have 3 touching points: your hips, all right, your hips, your shoulders, and the back of your head. Okay, so that tells you if your spine is in neutral position and ready for an athletic squat. So now we're ready to practice the resting squat. This progression is the progression I used. You can use any progression you want, but firstly, I mastered the full resting position on the bottom, focusing on mastering the bottom position, working on spreading the knees, keeping the feet flat, and quite frankly, it starts with just being able to balance. A chair or a low table often helps. People can get, I've seen people get into this position, but it's very, they haven't learned to balance from it. And so holding onto a chair really helps, and you can concentrate on it. If you're having trouble with flexibility and mobility in the ankles, you can put something underneath the ankles as an intermediary to help the stretch. And once this becomes very comfortable, then we can work on removing those or lowering them, because ideally we're trying to get to feet flat on the floor. So the knees spread, feet flat on the floor. You can press the knees out. Don't worry about the curved spine. We're trying to get to the full bottom position where our weight is relaxed and not on our quads. And we're working, you can totally have a curved spine. It's the full rest position. At some point, that's going to be comfortable. If it's not comfortable, honestly, maybe it's time to stop, and we're not going to become squatters, or you're going to have to look for expert help in doing your own squat technique, because there's some things that are going to keep you from fully front or back squatting. Okay, mastering this bottom you're ready to proceed when you can do this. Otherwise, there's ways, but you're not guaranteed ready. This is a guaranteed I'm ready to start learning introductory squatting. Secondly is to master the neutral supported spine. Okay, once the full bottom rested is fine, work on keeping your back more neutral than it is here. Okay, brace the spine, keep it more straight. Okay, it might raise your hips a little, and that's okay. It's fine if it does raise your hips a little, because we're going out of the resting squat to a neutral spine athletic squat. And thirdly, master going from the standing posture to the resting squat, and then master standing it up from the resting squat. This one we are going to think about keeping our head neutral and our back in an athletic braced position. 1 second. Okay, so we set up with a neutral posture braced position. We're going to start thinking about making a hole by pushing your knees out and then sinking into that hole. And the goal is to go from the neutral position down into an athletic resting squat position. You could go to full rest, or you could have the straight back like we do here. From the side, we have a neutral position. Sink down. And we have here a little bit of an athletic squat, little athletic. You can do whichever one you want with a neutral braced spine. Get comfortable going down into this position. And then just get comfortable coming out of the position. The cue is really simple for coming out of the position. If your back is neutral and braced, all you do is stand up. You know how to stand up, just stand up. So we're in the bottom position, and if I want to come out of this, it's a lot easier coming out of this position than it is getting into it. It's harder to get into it. There's more to think about. But once you're here we go. It's just the cue, stand up, stand up. Whatever's comfortable, just standing up. And thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped. I hope it introduces for people who haven't done this, I hope it introduces a whole new exciting stretch and an exciting position of mobility that maybe you never got into before. And if you did know about this, well, you already knew about it. Maybe there were some points that you like. Squatzilla, the king of all exercises. Resting squat introductory instructions. Thanks so much for watching.